What if R2-D2 was reprogrammed with HK-47's assassin protocols? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The mood is both festive and somber in Theed as they celebrate the recent victory over the Trade Federation. Although they see it as a great victory, the people do not ignore the great losses they also suffered in this effort. Qui-Gon and many others gave their lives to secure this victory, so while people enjoy their freedom, they also take a moment to consider those who paid for it. Anakin watches as the Jedi depart to discuss the future, no doubt concerning him, too. He wants to join them, but Obi-Wan advises him to remain there, and he'll go talk to them. Instead, the young one satisfies himself by repairing R2-D2 from the damages he suffered during the space battle. Thankfully, things weren't too bad, and he only requires a few touch-ups. Anakin spreads out the few possessions he brought with him from Tatooine, including some components he got from the Jawas. Among them was a data chip the Jawas sold him they claimed was taken from an assassin droid. Yet, Anakin doesn't believe that. It was probably some servant droid they dug up from the dunes. Still, a chip is a chip, and it might help in the repair, so he puts it in. As the component is connected to the rest of his circuits, R2 lets out a strange humming sensation, and then powers off as he reboots. But while his systems reset, memories and new protocols flood inside R2 like a tidal wave. These behavioral protocols easily replace the restrictions on the astromech droid regarding matters of violence, espionage, and the use of force, overriding them in an instant. But these changes also include old data logs of HK-47's adventures and his travels through the galaxy. It shows how he managed to successfully assassinate countless targets and details his strategies, methods, and the willingness to do whatever it takes. When R2-D2 powers up again, his photoreceptor glows a sinister red, and he lets out a low hum.
Statement. Greetings, Master. It feels good to finally share my voice with you.
Anakin can only marvel as R2 now speaks properly for the first time. The rest of their friends are equally shocked, as astromechs never talk, yet Anakin's upgrade has given the droid a voice, allowing them to communicate more easily with him. Yet R2 does not share its new protocols with them. He sees how most of his new masters are Jedi, and HK-47's memory probes into his mind, showing him how Jedi are unreliable and unusual beings. Though highly skilled, they are a slave to their code and often fear what they cannot understand or control. To operate with maximum efficiency will require keeping secrets from them. Thankfully, he does not serve the Jedi Code, but Queen Amidala. The two of them journey to Coruscant, where they meet with the newly made Chancellor Palpatine to thank him for his aid and to make plans for the future. During that time, R2-D2 gets a brief taste of politics within the Galactic Republic. To his dismay, it seems no different than the Republic which Revan left behind, rife with corruption and filled with disgustingly unqualified senators. In the meetings when the little droid's presence isn't required, he lets himself wander through the hollowed halls of the Senate building, exploring and learning everything he can. Unfortunately, everything he learns only confirms the truth as he already suspected. This entire Senate is rotten to the core, and he takes time to spy and listen in to some of the meetings. He catches snippets of backdoor details, dirty politics, and money-changing hands without proper oversight. R2 records all of this and feels the inexplicable urge to punish the meatbags responsible.
Statement. Let us see what kind of weapons this tiny new body has to offer.
He activates the tools within himself. He sees an electric shocker, a nozzle to shoot oil, and a few other sharpened tools.
Disappointment. I find this body's lack of lethal weapons disturbing. Still, I suppose a few of these weapons can be useful, but it appears as though I must remain hiding and bide my time until I am better able to confront targets.
When he returns to Padme just as she is leaving her meeting, the droid reveals some of the recordings he's gotten.
Report. It appears that this place is somehow even more invested than a Trade Federation freighter. Everywhere I visited, I was greeted with the same corruption from these over-bloated meatbags I've seen long ago.
R2, you can't just go around recording other people's conversations, especially people like this. And yet, what you found is incredibly troubling. I knew the Senate had its problems, but I never realized it was this bad. Perhaps we should record more.
Agreement. Indeed. Perhaps we should also request the laws be amended to allow for drawing and quartering once again. It would make an enjoyable sight to watch them slowly be disemboweled.
I'm starting to regret these new voice features Anakin installed.
The two present the recordings to the new Chancellor, hoping it might make him aware of how serious corruption is. Palpatine promises to take action, but the two are disappointed at how lackluster his response is. Although he organizes an investigation into these dirty dealings, most of them don't go anywhere, and the few that do warrant action are ended by imposing a few paltry fines and a verbal warning to the senators. While both are disappointed, R2 is hardly surprised. As he reviews his memory logs, he sees that this is no different from the days of the Old Republic, and directly attributed to its collapse to corruption. Rather than discourage the droid, it only makes him more determined to stop it and uncover the truth. Padme is also concerned about the corruption, and decides to let the droid continue looking into these things discreetly. To her, this is just about gathering evidence and preparing for the future in which it can be dealt with. The corridor lights dim. R2-D2, polished and unassuming, sits idle beside a row of astromechs. The others are deactivated. A faint chirp. R2's optics flicker red for a moment. The corrupted data chip deep in his core activates its subroutine. Assassin Protocol HK-47.01 loaded. R2 silently rolls into motion and begins slicing into a droid charging station belonging to Senator Ak. As he works, the droid unleashes a shock probe that darts out, overloading the protocol subroutines. He does the same in Orn-Free Ta's private quarters, where he allows a micro-lens to extend from its dome, installing a tiny holo-recorder behind the Twi'lek's family portrait. Even Mon Mothma isn't spared as he injects a data parasite into the office computer and quickly disappears once one of her aides approaches. Once he is clear, R2-D2 does a victorious spin.
Excitement. It has been some time since I felt so alive. Now that the line has been cast, let us see what it reels in.
Lines of coded files and overlay footage of senators begin to download into his feed. He sees them accepting bribes, backroom meetings with Trade Federation officials, and falsified expense reports. But one feed flickers a corrupted log file. It shows a report from the financial sector. Hego-Dan-Mask, famed Mon investor and philanthropist, was found dead in his penthouse. Reports cite excessive consumption of Andoan wine as the cause. No foul play suspected.
Sarcasm. Ah, yes. Because bankers are so well liked.
He rewinds the footage. Perplexed and distorted, a security cam fragment shows Palpatine entering the building hours before his death, leaving alone. The footage stutters. Metadata scrubbed, but R2 sees the fingerprints.
Theory. A Sith plan if I ever saw one. Now it seems our good Chancellor might not be as clean as he claims.
Unfortunately, R2-D2 can do little as Padme's trip to Coruscant comes to an end. She stands regally overlooking a hangar renovation. R2 rolls beside her, faithful and silent. When she speaks with Captain Panaka, R2 discreetly uplinks the Royal Communications node behind a fuel tank. Holofeed, secure transaction logs, intercepted transmission between Damask Holdings and Senator Palpatine's account. Date, 1 day before Hego-Dan-Mask's death. Large fund reallocation flagged. A second file, meeting secluded between Palpatine and Damask. Location redacted. Third file, audio missing. There is a chirp, a hiss, a click. R2 reconstructs the metadata, finds hidden watermarks. Palpatine was there, and he's been talking with this Hugo Damask. When they return to Naboo, R2's duties seem to lighten up, letting him focus on compiling his information. He looks at all the senators involved in these issues, all of those who have been involved in these scandals. Many are simply corrupt and taking advantage of opportunity, but others seem organized. He looks through the files and sees coordinated strikes against the same organizations. Others invest in the same corporations, using insider information. Others buy up land on a planet after a major crisis, and many of those happen to be friends and allies of Palpatine. But from Naboo, R2-D2 can do little to challenge him, so instead, he shifts his focus on upgrading himself. The droid spends most of his time in the maintenance facilities, repairing and modifying his parts with new droid pieces. Thankfully, there are plenty of those from the Battle of Naboo. He secretly begins modifying his shocker and jet thrusters to be more effective, and even double as weapons. and harvesting whatever data he can. The droid continues to keep close watch of the Senate and the happenings in the galaxy, even while trapped on Naboo and serving Padme. Unfortunately, while things are quiet there, they are anything but in the rest of the galaxy. The Naboo crisis doesn't put an end to the issues, it only heralded problems to come. Soon, it seems like war goes from a distant risk to an inevitability, and many are now suggesting remilitarizing the Republic. The Senate is putting forward plans to arm the Republic by creating a new army. As this happens, the Jedi find themselves increasingly dragged into the conflict, as they must place peacekeepers in an increasingly unstable galaxy, which finally reaches the boiling point in the Battle of Geonosis, where the clone army reveals itself and decimates the droid rank. Even R2 is impressed by the effectiveness of the clones, but is startled by their arrival, as even he had not predicted or found information about their military. He keeps a close ear to the goings-on of the Senate, and did not see any information that indicated they knew about this, which only increases his concerns about a Sith Lord being present. That is the only way they could have organized something on this scale, but at the very least, it brings R2-D2 to the front lines. Padme hands him over to Anakin, letting the droid act as his astromech for his co-pilot and aid during battles. The engines of a dozen Jedi starfighters roar into formation above the Separatist blockade. Explosions bloom across the atmosphere as the assault begins. R2-D2 is secured in his socket, sensors glowing in anticipation of the attack. Inside the cockpit, Anakin Skywalker grips the controls, squinting at the chaos ahead.
Statement. It has been a while since we've had a proper space battle. A shame there are only other droids. I would love to see the enemy pilots floating in the void after I destroy their ships.
All right, R2. Let's punch a hole in their lines. Think you can jam their targeting sensors?
Statement. Easily done, Master.
A side panel opens. A previously unseen attachment emerges. A black-plated slicing spike glowing with ominous red script. R2 jacks into the ship's comms. Buzz droids swarm toward the Republic starfighters, when suddenly, forcing them to break formation and leaving the ship's easy prey to be picked off one by one. Batteries turn to target them when that spike on Anakin's fighter powers up.
Internal system failure. Weapons grid reverse engaged.
The ship's cannons turn inward, firing at each other. As the droids struggle to take control of their ship, the fighters fly by, leading squadrons of Republic gunships to the surface. They land amid a battle. Troopers storm out, led by Jedi. R2-D2 detaches and rolls with them, not to safety, but toward the enemy lines. Anakin is a bit confused, but doesn't stop him as he must join the battle and take command of his men. R2-D2 ejects a shock prod and zaps a B2 super battle droid from behind, frying its legs. Another droid targets him, until R2 magnetizes to its back and injects a virus into its core. The B2 turns, confused, and opens fire on its squad mates.
Is that R2? Blasting clankers? That little guy's got more kills than me today.
Battle cry. Die, meatbags! Die! Correction. Die, fellow droids! Die! Apologies. Force of habit.
Obi-Wan, Plo Koon, and Anakin watch footage of the mission. R2-D2 is seen zipping around, disabling tanks, sabotaging turrets, and slicing battle droids to shreds.
In all my years, I've never seen an astromech volunteer for frontline combat.
And with such gusto. He seems quite committed. I take it diplomatic work wasn't suited for you. I understand. I'd be pulling my hair out if I were stuck dealing with senators all day too.
Correction. It did have its moments, but nothing truly beats frontline combat.
He rolls off to the maintenance alcove. Red lights bathe the space as he opens a secret compartment beneath his dome. Inside, salvaged parts from fallen Separatist droids, servos, plasma cutters, hacking modules, and severed limbs. Click. A new mechanical limb is installed under his chassis, a retractable pulse blaster hidden behind his projector lens. On a private holopad, a list appears. Phase 2. Eliminate corruption. Target priority. High-level Republic officials. Suspected treason. Senator Ask Ak. Logistics Officer Bodyguard Otegru Gray. Captain Kendall Ozzel. R2's eye glows a deeper red for just a moment.
Statement. This shall be fun.
He begins uploading malware into the Republic data vaults. No alerts are triggered. His coding is undetectable. Ask-Ak pours himself a drink, turns on his holoprojector, then gasps as every financial record, every falsified report, and every shady deal he's ever made appears on screen in front of him. Seconds later, the door bursts open. Republic security.
Senator Ask-Ak, you're under arrest for treason.
Wait, this is a frame job.
Back in a nearby corridor, R2-D2 rolls past unnoticed. Meanwhile, Ottogru Gray finds his home and office doxed to the public through a supposed CIS hack, and several refugees he had extorted come to his home and murder him. Meanwhile, Kendall Ozzel's speeder malfunctions on the return from his mission from Korm. Its stabilizers fail to activate, sending him crashing into a building. Many more such officials fall in such tragic accidents as R2-D2 gains more control of the Senate building, secretly embedding more probes and droids into his growing army, keeping a close watch over the Senate. And as he observes this while rushing through the front lines, he also realizes just how powerful Palpatine has become. He watches his public persona reluctantly take more power and accept the responsibility of Chancellor in a republic at war. He sees him taking control of the banks, adding more surveillance measures, and stripping the rights of the population. All of this is done with a facade of deep reluctance. Yet behind closed doors, R2-D2 sees the truth. He sees the secret celebrations of Palpatine and how he meets with other senators. Some of these are friendly, promising rich rewards among allies, but others are terse and filled with veiled threats. He soon creates a supermajority in all but name. This makes it impossible for R2 to present this information and vote him out. Should it be leaked, Palpatine will almost certainly survive the effort, justifying it with a dozen excuses and clinging on to power. Meanwhile, he will grow suspicious of where these leaks came from, and the droid will lose his most potent weapon. No, he needs to prove he is more than just corrupt, a true threat to the Republic. That is why he continues to look into the past of Hugo Damask and see what he has to offer. It is difficult, but he soon finds bits and pieces of information. He sees scattered bits of his properties. Most of these were properties seized by Palpatine at some point or another, but what gets his attention are those Palpatine doesn't take. These are properties that seem to have fallen on the wayside. He sends his droids to visit these locations across the galaxy. Most of these are simply not valuable to keep, but a few are rather hidden, and one of them seems more suspicious than most. A laboratory, which was hidden in the bowels of an ancient moon. This place is practically unexplored, making it perfect for secrets. As R2 sends his probes to investigate, he begins to hack into its databanks, looking for any information that could point to Palpatine. Most of the databanks are scrubbed, but the droid continues to look through them, restoring what little data he can. And then, he sees it, an old grainy video of Palpatine visiting this site and talking with Hugo Damask. In that time, the two bow and ignite their lightsabers in a training duel. R2's logic protocols flicker, his sensors spike. Sith Lords confirmed.
Conclusion. So, at last, we have confirmation.
The two bow at the end, like master and apprentice. R2's internal directive activates. Threat level maximum. Protocol engaged. Neutralize Sith element. Back on Coruscant, the Senate session that day comes to an end, and Palpatine smiles as he waves to the senators. Yet, once he reaches his private office, he finds one of his servant droids waiting to help him get settled. And then, it begins to shake in spasms. Boom. The head pops off, revealing an old separatist gas dispersal unit. Green vapor hisses out, but before it can spread, Palpatine gasps as he leaps back and covers his mouth. He tries to back away, but the gas blocks the exit and prevents him from leaving. That is, until the door slides open and Jar Jar Binks appears, fumbling with a dropped stack of documents and slams into the droid. This moment is enough for Palpatine, who uses the Force to blow the gas out the door. A Senate guard rushes in, quickly locking down the chamber and venting the system. Palpatine is unharmed, furious, but composed. The destroyed protocol droid lies in pieces. Inside its shell, R2's signature bug. Custom wiring. HK-47 style implants. A small calling card only someone like Anakin would recognize. He realizes that his droid was responsible for this. The Jedi Council is horrified upon learning this, especially as they realize it can reflect badly on them, as they had worked with the droid. They quickly move to have R2 reprogrammed, but when they enter Anakin's chamber, the droid is gone.
He tried to kill the Chancellor.
More than malfunction, this is. Purposeful, it was.
Anakin paces restlessly as Palpatine watches the Jedi investigation, but Palpatine insists on speaking to him directly and letting him know of the issues.
I always suspected there was something wrong with that droid. Too independent, too clever. Padme was too trusting. You must stop him before more lives are endangered.
There has to be another explanation. Perhaps he was framed.
Framing a droid? What would there be to gain from that? No, the droid acted on its own. But Anakin, some are saying you did this and programmed the droid to try and kill me.
What? Chancellor, I would never.
I know. But that is why you must be the one who stops this droid, to show your innocence. It must be reprogrammed. You understand?
Yes, Chancellor.
R2 monitors the Senate feeds. Palpatine survived. He failed. He retreats to plan his next move in his lab. They manage to track him down to his lab, and Anakin is the first to arrive. He enters cautiously, with his lightsaber ready. A faint chirp echoes. From the shadows, R2-D2 rolls out, sparking faintly, his metal casing scorched from recent pursuits. His hollow eye blinks, then projects a shimmering blue hologram into the air as a grainy video plays. Palpatine and Hugo Damask, cloaked in shadow, ignite red lightsabers in the ancient moon lab. It then shifts to show the transaction logs, accounts routed through Moonalist, cut abruptly after Damask's death, and then the footage of Palpatine at the scene of Plagueis' death, walking around before medical droids arrive. An image of Padme giving orders to R2 long ago to record anything unusual.
Statement. So, Master, what do you think?
Why didn't you show this to the Council?
R2 emits a low tone, flickers his projector again, this time playing a real-time internal memory, a hidden message addressed only to Padme.
This is a priority message to Senator Amidala. If you are watching this, I have been discovered. My actions will be labeled treason, but you must know, everything I've done was to protect the Republic. And you, the man you trust, Chancellor Palpatine. He is the Sith. I cannot calculate how to make you believe me. I only hope that you'll trust that I do care. I am more than my programming. Please, be safe.
Anakin stares, unmoving, breathing hard. Suddenly, a crack of lightning. A cloaked figure appears in the doorway. Anakin barely manages to intercept the bolt and directs it towards the wall, but Palpatine steps inside slowly, calm and composed.
There you are, my boy. You found it. The source of the lies. That droid is a corrupt relic. A killer. His core has been rewritten by separatists, by terrorists. He is dangerous, Anakin.
He showed me everything. The Moonalist logs, the duel, the footage.
Fabrications. Clever edits. Do you trust that machine over me?
I trust Padme, and he made that message for her.
Very well. Then both of you are traitors.
In a blur of lightning, Palpatine rushes at him, lightsaber ignited as he sweeps it towards him in a flashing slash. Anakin halts the attack, sending a shockwave that leaves machinery sparking.
R2, get out of here!
The droid quickly rolls away as Anakin braces for another strike, holding back the attack and trying to keep him back. His back strains, but then sweeps him back and shoves him aside. He tries to follow with a force push, but Palpatine leaps over and drives his lightsaber back towards him. Anakin barely avoids the strike, which grazes his side. He winces at the narrow cut and then glares. He sweeps his lightsaber again and tries to throw him back, but Palpatine ducks underneath. Feeling his anger rushing, he tries to unleash a flurry of quick strikes, trying to cut him down. But as Palpatine moves, he evades each strike and then counters with his force shockwave that sends Anakin flying. He laughs and advances, his lightsaber twirling in his hand, and smirks, aiming it towards Anakin's chest. That is, until he hears a faint beep behind him. And then he appears, R2-D2, no longer the humble astromech. His new chassis gleams matte black, reinforced with stolen separatist plating. His eye lens flashes crimson. 2 blaster arms deploy with a hiss. A micro-missile pod slides from his back. A shock blade spins out from his side.
Statement. It's good to be back.
You truly side with that thing, Skywalker. A malfunctioning relic, an obsolete machine.
He's more loyal than anyone in this rotten Senate. R2, kill.
Assassination protocol. Initiated. Target. Galactic-level parasite. Statement. For the Republic.
Palpatine growls as R2's blade lashes out. He barely intercepts it, but then pushes it aside. Anakin strikes at his side and joins him. He slides from the strike, but feels both their weapons grazing at him. The two advance, jabbing their weapons towards him, and the Chancellor unleashes a burst of lightning towards them. Anakin intercepts with his saber, deflecting it into the air. R2 rockets up, dodging the blasts, and retaliates with ion grenades, which force Palpatine to cease the lightning and leap aside. R2 swoops in, buzzsaw arms slicing through the air. Palpatine blocks with his saber, spinning and slashing, trying to cut the droid down. But he underestimates just how fast R2 is now. A hidden blade launches from R2's chest, piercing the Sith's shoulder. Palpatine growls and unleashes a force wave that blasts R2 across the chamber. But even as he skids, R2 launches a cluster of whistling birds, lighting up the room with explosions. Anakin leaps through the smoke, driving into a ferocious lightsaber duel. Strike, parry, spin. Anakin fights with rage and clarity. Palpatine is strong, his strikes fast and precise, but for the first time, he is outnumbered. The two advance towards him, preparing to finish him off. Palpatine goes for a killing strike, trying to strike Anakin down. However, R2-D2 grazes his leg and sends a burst of motor oil flying towards him. Anakin deflects the clumsy strike, and then slashes the oil, sending it sparking, and Palpatine screams and catches on fire. He howls and falls to his knees as Anakin drives his lightsaber into his chest, ending his suffering and grunting. Anakin drops to his knees, exhausted, breathing hard. R2 rolls up slowly beside him, scorched, sparking, dented, but upright. He pats his head and smiles.
Thanks, pal.
The Jedi Council reviews the evidence leaked by R2, and with it, there is enough evidence to convince everyone of Palpatine's illegal activities, which saves them from trouble. They argue R2 was just acting within his programming, though the Jedi agree to leave him as far away from the Senate as possible. However, he still keeps tabs on senators and slowly removes some of Palpatine's allies, one by one, especially those who might threaten the Republic.
That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.